It is about the herdsman who hunted bears, ox, when the world was filled with strife, and that means like trouble. About revenge and jealousy that caused a lot of changes and fights. Finally, the herdsman and bears were put up in the sky in starry lights. Although not very bright, they can be seen up in the sky on a starlit night or in a book. Please remember, you only have to look up to the sky to read and learn and look. It'll get you interested. It is home to one of the brightest stars in the sky. Arcturus or Alpha Boötes is there. So it was used in navigation as it appeared in the northern hemisphere. And there we have Boötes again, the herdsman. Camelopardalis is the next star constellation. I mean, some of these, that's supposed to be like a camel or a giraffe. It doesn't look like one to me, but after a while, it can look like one if you read about them long enough and you see where they were coming from when they named them. Camelopardalis is a constellation visible in the northern sky that the ancients saw a giraffe-looking object or a camel flying by. It is a faint northern circumpolar constellation of large size. The long neck they saw was stretching far towards the north in through empty desert skies. They saw something like the giraffe shape with the spots of a leopard. The words in Greek mean giraffe with the spots of a leopard, which could be seen by a shepherd. It may be faint because many stars dust the sky and not all are bright. But if you look, you will see them with binoculars or telescopes in the night sky's light. And there we have Camelopardalis again. Capricornus is the goatfish. At the end of the calendar year, we see the Capricorn constellation. The mythology of the Greeks said it was the god Pan's transformation. The mythological tales that are told and written are found in the constellations in them. This is a faint constellation of the southern hemisphere that you can find with a telescope when it is near. Water being near for work and transportation is important after thousands of years. So where the goatfish was represented this ancient myth that was told, and told you that the gods rewarded and punished those that were bold. And that's the goatfish. The next rhyme poem about constellations is Cancer the crab. And there's Cancer. The constellation Cancer the crab is one of the signs of the zodiac. The name is a Latin word for a crab that bites back. Getting the crab was one of the 12 labors of Hercules that he had to complete and be completed to atone for bad things and killings that he did when he needed not to be defeated. In a myth, he defeats it by kicking it into the eternal sky, to be seen by all as the stars and sky rotate by. The story that Hercules defeated it, although it was the enemy, reminds us that we can defeat cancer, the disease, and have victory. So look for the Cancer constellation in the northern hemisphere. Although it is faint, it can be seen if binoculars are near. And there it is again, right there. Now, this one looks like what it's supposed to be. That's Eridanus, the river. The constellation Eridanus is in the southern hemisphere. It is the second largest constellation that in time will appear. So the twists and turns of this long constellation were based on mythological stories of a man named Phaeton. Taking a wild chariot ride ended with a thunderbolt from Zeus on high. A river was put to commemorate these stories in our sky. The myths are moral tales that teach us in a way that help you to learn to go and when to stay. The constellations have official names and remain the same. You will see real things and places named after them and will recognize those names. After a while, you will notice that companies, products, stories are named after constellations, and you'll see it in movies. The next rhyme poem about constellations is Canis Major and Canis Minor, and those are the dog constellations. Now, one looks like a dog, the other one not so much like a dog. It just looks like a straight line to me, but that's what the ancients saw. High up in the sky, there are the two hunting dogs of Orion. They are named for his hunting animals who hunted with him like lions. One stands at his right hand, the hand of Orion, the hunter who died. Orion contains Sirius, the dog star, brightest star in the sky. Sirius is Greek for searing or scorching, and remains so as time goes by. Canis Minor is the lesser dog constellation that also contains a bright star. Procyon is the bright star in it that helps you find out where the constellations are. Sometimes the constellations don't look like what they represent at all, but they told stories of mythology and heroic tales and tales that were tall. And that means like they could be true, they could be false, they could be fantasy. Fornax, the furnace, is the next constellation, and this is a later constellation. It was found once there were telescopes and stuff. The constellation Fornax hides behind Eridanus in the southern sky. It is seen in the southern hemisphere and can sometimes be seen from the north there. No Greek myth or heroic tale has figured in the name of some star formations. It is the French astronomer Nicolas Louis de Lacaille who later mapped 15 of later known constellations. They were not even discovered until he invented a crude type of telescope. Then he went to South Africa at the most southern point of the Cape of Good Hope. This is a part of a group of constellations not seen until there were ways to see beyond your eyes. These discoveries happened in the 18th century and are now named and seen in the skies. The next rhyme poem is a constellation that's called Carina. And Pupus, which is, they're all parts of a boat. So Carina is the keel and Pupus is the stern, like of ancient boats. There are constellations in the southern hemisphere sky's history, representing Jason's tale of the Argonauts who sailed in stories of mythology. Carina has the second brightest star in the sky, Alpha Carinae. Vela, Carina, and Pupus made up a ship with sails in ancient days, which together had many more clusters and stars. Now they have their own constellations of the ones that there are. Pupus is the largest of the three, making up the stern's part. When you look in the southern hemisphere stars, the stern of the ship is to the right of the Milky Way, so you know where it is and you can find it any day. They used the stars in the sky for navigation and travel, and because they were something that was constant up there, they could find them and use them as a set point where they could know what direction they were in. Centaurus, the centaur, is the next constellation, and he kind of looks like something, at least. Centaurus is half man and half horse and is a southern constellation, mostly visible below the equator in southern nations. It contains Alpha Centauri, or Regal, as its brightest star, a star in the southern sky to tell you where you are. In a cluster that appears as a smudge in the sky, close enough to be totally visible to only your eyes. This constellation is part Greek mythology and lore, which says a wise centaur, Chiron, was to be freed from pain and more after he was accidentally struck by Hercules with an arrow in the leg of a Greek nation. He gave up his immortality to be placed in the sky in this big constellation. And you have to read the stories to understand a whole lot more about what was going on in the mythology. I just give you a hint of what was going on in the mythology. Now, these are constellation Corona Borealis and Corona Australis. One is in the northern hemisphere, one is in the southern hemisphere, and they are the crown constellations. They look like crowns. Look at them. At least somewhat like crowns. In both the northern and southern hemisphere are the crown constellations, one far north, one far south, shaped differently over a nation. Corona Borealis is in the north and is from a myth told to us. A jeweled crown who was the Princess Adrienne, and she had it, who married the god Bacchus. He threw the crown into the air, and it became stars in the myth told. Corona Australis was a wreath thrown into the skies by Bacchus after he rescued his mother from the underworld. Gemma, which is Latin for jewel, and is Borealis's brightest star. Australis sits on the edge of our galaxy, the Milky Way, and we can't see those bright stars where they are. just because of their location. Cephas the king is the next constellation rhyme poem. In the far northern sky, Ethiopia was an ancient land where the king of Ethiopia ruled with an iron hand. The constellation Cassiopeia depicts his boasting wife, who, according to ancient Greek myths, caused her land much strife. Andromeda was her daughter, who was rescued from Cetus by Perseus, who killed him by making use of the head of Medusa, which was an unusual use. Poseidon, the god, by sending a sea monster named Cetus, punished Cassiopeia's pride. The rest of the story is found in constellations that are narrow and wide. It is the brightest star. Its brightest star is Alpha Cephei, or Aldebaran, which helps you to find it in the sky. In the northern skies, you will see this with a telescope, but not with your eyes. So a lot of the constellations, you really need a telescope to see them. But this is something you can get. And other than that, there's a lot you can see without having a telescope. You can see quite a bit up in the sky. The stars up there have many constellations that you can find. Cygnus the swan. And there's Cygnus. And it kind of looks like a bird. A constellation named Cygnus the swan is in the northern sky. In Greek mythology, it represents a swan wings wide open on high. It is said to represent what the god Zeus liked in his mythological sight. It is called the Northern Cross, full of spots of bright light. It is shaped and it's compared to the Southern Cross in the Southern Hemisphere. So it depends which hemisphere you are in, which one you will be near. So to find this constellation, it helps to know where the star Deneb sits. It is also part of the summer triangle in August that we find starlit. And okay, so that's Cygnus, the swan. And Cetus is the whale or the sea monster. If you know the tale of Andromeda and Perseus in Greek mythology, you know that the sea monster who came to destroy Andromeda's home was Cetus from the sea. Andromeda was chained to a large rock and was taken by Cetus as a sacrifice. Her mother, Cassiopeia, had bragged and was guilty of the sin of pride. It is visible from both the northern and southern hemisphere. Of course, there are other constellations that are near. It is a large constellation, but is made of dim stars. On the celestial equator, to find out where you are. Its head is near the constellation Taurus, the bull, and it has galaxies of stars that make it very full. A galaxy is a large amount of stars over a larger area than a constellation would be. And a lot of other things are in a galaxy too. Gemini, the twins, is the next constellation. A lot of these are astrological constellations. You know, they have their astrology signs. This astrological constellation is one with a double explanation. Gemini is one of the constellations in the Northern Hemisphere nation. One was born mortal and one immortal. There were two of them, the twins, raised together. After Castor stayed by Pollux' side, and that was their names, they grew and they were always together on adventures until one died. They rescued shipwrecked sailors by the power of Poseidon, god of the sea, who bestowed upon them many honorable abilities. They had been sailors in many mythological tales that rhyme. It is a sign in astrology between Taurus and Cancer designations. It signifies a pair of mythological twins in the constellations. And there's a lot of stories that you can read about Gemini, the twins, Castor and Pollux. Hercules, the hero. Now, everybody knows who Hercules is. You know, there's movies about him, books about him, and you hear about him once in a while. Hercules is a bright, large constellation in the northern sky. Hercules was the strongest man who is known in all times. The subject of several constellations seen in our star rhymes. The tale of Hercules in Greek and Roman mythology involves his 12 tasks he had to do. He had to kill the Hydra, Lupus, and Leo, the lion, and Draco, the dragon, to name a few. Best seen in the skies of the northern hemisphere, it can also be seen from the southern hemisphere, although with the creatures that he killed that are also there. He is known as the greatest hero in mythological stories because of the 12 labors of Hercules, which tell us of his glories. The next is Leo the lion. And these are ones that happen to be part of the 12 labors of Hercules. So there's Leo. A lion that is a cat that is depicted in mythology. A lying down lion in the northern hemisphere is a part of astrology. In Greek mythology, he is killed by Hercules, but is also memorialized. It's one of the labors that Hercules had finalized. It's between Cancer and Virgo in the astrological chart. Its brightest star is Regulus, and one of the brightest stars. Once it climbs into the sky, look to the left and find a backward question mark. It stands for a lion's mane, and this star is its arc. So in the sky, there is a king of beasts seen lying there. It is said Hercules in mythology took the lion's coat to wear. And you see that like backward question mark kind of thing on right there. The next rhyme poem is Lepus the hare. And Lepus is a rabbit. Lepus the rabbit lies in front of the hunter Orion in the southern sky, who loved to hunt them, and so the constellation is nearby. Lepus is a Latin word for rabbits or jackrabbits, we know. It is not part of the zodiac or astrology like so many other ones long ago. The rabbit was placed at Orion's foot in the southern celestial hemisphere. To note that's where it was when Orion hunted it, and it was near. So where constellations are, tell the story that the ancients wanted told, They wanted to remind us to read stories of the past that would become old. When you learn about constellations, the stories of mythology are even more fun to read. They are stories that have subjects of bravery and speed. Much more exciting than a lot of video games. This will conclude today. Thank you very much for watching.